Good morning, GM friends, and welcome to zazoome. I'm Sheri Barbera, and today, of course, I am so excited because we are going to be talking about how to create a generative NFT collection of your own. How does it actually work? And for those of you who are here, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. What is a generative NFT collection? What does that even mean? A generative collection is also known as generative art, generative NFT art, generative code, so this gives you an idea, and generative NFT code. It is art created using software. And this is why you're able to create enormous collections like 10,000 characters just from your own artwork. So a generative NFT collection is an algorithmically generated process creating new ideas, new forms, new shapes, colors, and patterns from separate layers of your artwork. And of course, I'm getting into that now. A generative NFT collection first needs a theme, needs a style, and needs artwork to actually become something. After that, there are rules, and rules are boundaries that you set for the software program's algorithm in order to generate your 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 different characters from the layers that you put in. The rules apply to your layers and your traits. And if you're on OpenSea, traits are known as properties. That's what properties are. Properties are your traits. Traits can be something like hair, eyes, lips or mouths, clothing, accessories, backgrounds. These are properties and traits. And then those get broken down into attribute variations. And if you look at these different pings, these are base layers. So base layers are a simple shape. They're one simple shape that everything else is built up on. So here are glasses, different variations of glasses, different variations of things. And then traits can be something like hair traits, mohawk, ponytail, long black hair, long red hair, long brown hair, curly blonde hair, so many things that you can do to create traits and attributes. Now that the computer software has that information, it will follow the rules that you have entered. So you're a very active participant in creating your own generative art collection. And those rules will produce the characters that you want to generate on your behalf. These are generated from the art that you've created and the individual layers that you entered into the software program. The ultimate outcome is that it produces a set of randomly generated images which create a collection of thousands of unique characters. So you may only have a total of 150 layers, but you can generate 10,000 unique characters from that. Characters are created in layers mostly called PSD files or image layers. And a PSD is actually a Photoshop document. It's a Photoshop document image file. And the reason why Photoshop is so commonly used for this is because, number one, it's been around since the 90s, maybe even the 80s. I don't know. Photoshop's been around forever. It's a very sophisticated program. It supports multiple image layers in very high quality. So you can define hundreds and hundreds of layers in Photoshop, and each one of them can be very easily put into folders. Individual folders can then have folders within folders so that you can have traits and then attributes in those traits, and even another set if you wanted to. So it can be very, very sophisticated. Software options besides Photoshop would also be Illustrator would be one, but Photo Paint, GIMP is a very good one, and it's free. Paint.net, StylePix, Paint Shop Pro, and even Procreate, which is for iPad. So there are quite a lot of options to create your artwork. Now, a generative collection will never look like this. This is not what generative art looks like. This is random, differently shaped, differently sized, different types of characters.
Is that the same person? The same?
No.
It's all different.
This is all different art and all different types of characters. It would look like this, where it's basically one base shaped outline, and then on top of that base, in layers from the base out, would be the background, the base shape, the eyes, the hat, the mouth, the lips, the eye, all of that kind of stuff would go on top of the base. Your base character will be one shape, and that shape will appear in the whole collection. Now, with having said that, I have just a quick caveat about that.
Yes.
Because I found a collection that actually has two shapes. I was very surprised by that.
You mean two base shapes?
Yeah, two base shapes. And what I learned is that you can have multiple base shapes.
Is it like a straight and a profile?
No.
Or different shapes?
It's a different shape. And I am going to even show you a base shape that can have maybe 7 bases.
Wait. Is it the same character in different shapes, or is it different characters?
Yes and yes. So it's you'll see. I mean, it's very interesting. It's not as simplistic as I thought it was.
It's further into the presentation here.
Yeah, it's further into the presentation, and it's a little more sophisticated than I even knew it was going to be.
It's good. I need sophistication.
Yeah, sophistication is cool. Your base character may be super basic, or it may have a little more definition, or it may be, so it might go from 2D to 3D to animation. It just depends upon what you want your collection to be. So your base character can be a variety of things. For Bored Ape Yacht Club, their base character is a bored ape. And then all of the things that are put on top of the bored ape shape create numerous 10,000 different characters that are doing all kinds of things. Who knows? So this one has a halo, this one has $ glasses, this one's eating a banana, this one has some kind of a green mohawk, this one's inside a paper bag, this one has a crown. That's kind of fun. There are so many variations. So what I highly recommend that you do is go to OpenSea.io, which is OpenSEA, OpenSea, all one word, .io, and look at collections and start to understand what this looks like, what a generated collection actually looks like, the kinds of things to give you ideas on what you yourself can do to create something really cool. Another example of a base character doesn't have to be facing you. A base character can be a 3/4 profile. It can be a complete profile. It can be a full figure. It just depends upon what do you want your base character to look like. Here's another example of a base character. This is a 3-dimensional base character. And the characters from this are all 3D looking characters. Lots and lots of fun variations on this one. This is a base character based on Azuki, and this is a video game, and these characters are all based on the video game characters. But what's interesting to me, and really kind of amazing, is that the base character is generic. It's sort of a generic character, because if you look at it, it basically looks the same, and yet once you start breaking it down, here's a little up-pointed nose, here is more of a rounded nose. Though they look like the same character, they're not exactly the same. So what I'm saying is that the base may be more than one base, might have different profiles for the same exact base, so that the female is more recognizable as a female, the male may be more recognizable as a male, but still very, very similar in the look of the base. These are what their multiple characters look like, and you can see so many different hairstyles, so many different clothing styles, different backgrounds, and backgrounds can just be simply a solid color. They could also be a pattern. They could also be completely designed, like the background behind me, and have lots of things going on. You determine what your backgrounds are.
They're all in profile.
These are all in profile. Right. The Azuki ones are all in profile. But as I'm showing you, it can be so many different things. It can be straight on. It can be 3/4. It can be full profile, or it can be full figure. So it really does depend upon what do you want your collection to look like.
Right.
And also you have to sort of keep in mind, what is the whole collection going to look like on the marketplace? Because this is kind of important, because if you're doing full figure, but the full figures are so itty bitty that you can't tell what they are, that sort of takes away from and kind of defeats the purpose of creating a really cool collection that people want to buy. So you want to be thoughtful about the sizes, but I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying be thoughtful and look at other examples. Another example, a wonderful example, is the first generative collection called CryptoPunks. And these are CryptoPunks. They were originally based on profile pictures, PFP profile pictures. And they're just pixelated, simple characters, each one having different hats, mouths, accessories, colors, even different background colors, but super, super simple. And today, NFTs from CryptoPunks are going in the millions, are selling in the millions. The more rare the traits are, and by rare, I'm just going to go over to us for a second. By rare, I mean the percentage of the overall collection. So if it's a 10,000 NFT collection and 1% have a particular trait, that's rare. That's what makes an NFT rare, when the percentage of the trait. So let's say, for example,
1% has a cigarette, or 1% has glasses with a cigarette.
Right. And maybe 3% have earrings, and maybe 50% have a blue background.
Oh.
And maybe 85% have, so you can see that percentages, these are the rules that you enter into the software program. So rules control rarity as well.
And which controls the price.
Which controls the price.
Right.
So rarity is huge. People like rare things because the more scarce something is, the more valuable it is. The more scarce, the more valuable. The more rare.
So if I made
traits,
NFTs out of steaks, perhaps, the rarest ones would be the best.
Okay, so base character, and then different traits create multiple different characters that can look so different from each other. And amazingly, just one simple shape can look like females, males, different nationalities, different races, different everything. It's quite amazing what you can do, isn't it, with different traits? It's quite amazing. So you don't have to ever feel like you're stuck doing something. Now, this is an example, cryptodes, T-O-A-D-Z, cryptodes, of pixelated toads, where the base character is two different shapes. And the squashed down little toads, looks like this. And then the sitting up toad is a much higher toad with higher little pixely legs. And this looks like, when you look at it, you can see, here's your little squash toad, and here's your more sitting up toad. And
oh, come on.
These are selling for thousands.
Yeah, why wouldn't people
thousands
have
of
fun?
dollars.
Yeah, this is what the fun part is.
It is. It's
there are
so much
no
fun.
boundaries at all.
No.
None.
You can really, I'm back at us, you can really do
You can do anything.
anything you want.
Anything.
And have fun.
And if it catches on, you'll be rich.
You'll be rich. It is the one time where you can go crazy coming up with whatever stuff is in your head. Let it out. Make your collection crazy, fun, interesting, intriguing, something that people want to buy, something that people are like, oh, I haven't seen that before.
In an economy
That's cool.
in a world where the economy is like all over the place,
Yeah.
you have to pay $1 million for a drawing of a frog.
Well,
But it's, I mean, I'm saying,
Not
you
$1
can
million
capitalize.
yet for the
This
toads.
is what capitalizing on something means. You
Right.
can capitalize on this crazy thing,
Right.
because it's real. It's
Right.
real.
it is.
It's happening now.
It's happening right
You
now.
have to take advantage of it.
And to put an even finer point on that, most of these enormous collections have been around for a very short period of time. Bored Ape Yacht Club launched last March.
Yeah.
That's it. March 17th of last year. It has literally been it's just been a tiny bit over a year.
Yeah.
That Bored
And
Ape Yacht Club
like
is
everything
out.
else, people that collect things are looking for new artists because they project whether or not they're going to become famous or good, like
Yeah.
regular art.
Right.
Yes.
So you should be looking at all of the new NFT drops that are coming out. You should be looking at what is happening in the world of NFTs. If you want to create your own generative art collection, see what's out there. What is happening? What is trending? What are people buying? Now, this looks totally different, right, from what I just showed you.
That-
And these are called doodles, and they do look like doodles, but you can see same exact base shape, but one male, one female. Look at how easy it is to create different characters from one shape. And again, 3/4 profile. And this is an example of the multiple characters that are created in the doodles. And it's hard for me to believe that these are selling for so much money, but they are.
My whole point.
They are selling
whole
for
point.
so much money. It's crazy. So look up doodles on OpenSea and you will be floored. This is an example of a base character. I found this amazing company called Bueno Generator. I love that. Bueno Generator. It's so cute. And you can pay in ETH. And I'm just going to go to us for 1 second. You can pay in ETH, which is Ethereum cryptocurrency, and have them generate your collection. You create your artwork and then you enter it into their software. And then you pick the traits and then you pick the rarities and then you do all of that on their software. And then they create all of the infrastructure for you, all of the back end for you, and you pay them in ETH for 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, however many characters you want generated. You pay in ETH.
So you have pricing for this, the amount of characters.
The amount of characters that you want to generate. So if you don't want to do this yourself, because it is very complicated, and I'm going to show you the software that you can use to do it yourself, and you can certainly do this yourself and not pay anybody. But if you don't want to do it yourself, I think they're charging something like 0.1 ETH, not 1 ETH, but 0.1 ETH. And an Ethereum right now is Well, cryptocurrency is very volatile. So Ethereum right now is somewhere around $3,500 to $4,500 for one ETH. For one ETH. So this is 0.1 of an ETH.
So
okay, 0.1.
it's something that people use all the time. It's not a dangerous thing. Like you give somebody
You give someone your public address.
All right, but I'm saying the NFTs, you give them your NFTs and you don't have to worry about people using them in a wrong fashion or anything, or taking them, or a lot of people are using this.
A lot of people. Are you talking about the program, or are you talking about the NFTs themselves? You're talking about this Bueno.
The program.
The Bueno program.
Yes.
The Bueno program is relatively new. It's relatively new. Like most things that are happening in the NFT space, almost everything is newish. So maybe founded in 2021, doesn't have a long history behind it, and yet you can go and look at who the owner is, the man that created this. You can go to his Twitter page, which I did, to dox him, to make sure he was legit.
That's why I asked.
Right? To make sure he's legit.
Research.
I went and I did my research and I looked at that, and I actually put myself on a wait list to be a part of the next group of people who are able to mint with him. So it's very, very interesting. Bueno Generator is called. And these are the kinds of examples that he gives you to show you what you can do. Now, this is his art, but he shows you with one base shape, you can do so many things. And they don't have to look very simplistically designed. These, I do believe, are darling and hand-drawn looking and fun and original looking, each one of them, and yet they're not. Each one of them is generated by software, which is incredible. And even though every single trait is separated out and is a very simple trait, they're also very hand-drawn looking. They're darling. I mean, they just have a delightful feel to them. And I wanted you to see that generative art doesn't have to always look so perfect. It doesn't have to look perfectly drawn. It doesn't have to look perfectly done. It doesn't have to be perfectly shaded. It can be delightful. It can be fun. It can be something that just makes you smile and makes you enjoy owning that piece of art. This is what those characters look like. You can see he has funny tongues, fun glasses, different hairstyles, all kinds of things. Not a lot of different clothing options, and yet each character does look unique, and each character is unique because they are randomly generated. And individual traits can be such as a background, hair, eyes, mouth, accessories, clothing, body. Those can be individual traits. And then within those individual traits are the attributes. And the attributes can be something like brown hair or brown eyes or red lips or whatever it is. That is an attribute, a trait within a trait. Trait within a trait. To break it down, these are your individual pieces. Here's your base. And then when you put them all together, this background here, this base here, this hat here, those eyes here, these legs here, all become this individual character. So before I go any further, are there any questions? Do you have any questions? Because this is a lot. I think I've covered a lot already. It's a lot to absorb.
No, I don't have a question
Okay.
right now. I don't.
So if you're watching and you have a question, put it in the comments below this video and we will be happy to answer them for you. So to break it down, what is the first thing that you need to do? You need to come up with an idea. What is your idea for your generative art collection? What is the theme of your generative art collection, and what style do you want to use? Do you want to use two-dimensional art, three-dimensional art, animated art? Will it be people or animals or things like sneakers? What are you planning to do for your collection? You need to break it all down. The art process is to define the individual layers and traits so that you clearly know this is what I want my collection to be about. Also, generally speaking, most NFT collections today, and this could of course change in the future, are square. Many of them are 600 by 600 pixels. Do you have to do that? You do not. And keep in mind, if you're doing trading cards, they're not going to be square. They're going to be portrait style. They're going to be a rectangle. And that would be a completely different pixel size. If you're doing let's say a 3 by 5 inch trading card, then you want to convert the inches into pixels, and that's the size that you want to create your art in. This is just a baseline for you. This is just a beginner's guide for you to understand what you want to do. But here is the critical thing. The critical thing is that whatever shape, whether it's square or rectangle, whatever shape you decide on, every single layer must be the exact same shape and the exact same size. Why? You're layering them. You're layering them one on top of another on top of another. So if you're layering them and they're not the same shape and they're not the same size, how are they going to layer? They won't. So this is super important. If you're just doing eyes on one layer, those eyes must be in the exact right place on that layer so that they work. And you will be using a PNG file, a PNG file. Why? Because a PNG file can have a transparent background. And that way, if it's just eyes, everything else will be transparent when it's exported as a layer. You cannot use a JPEG. A JPEG does not allow for a transparent background. So very important that you understand what it is that you are creating and what type of file format you are creating. So you will be creating PSD files and then they will be generated by you as PNGs. Square, rectangular, whatever you choose must be consistent. Size must be consistent as well. So you start with your base character shape and perhaps it looks like this, which what the heck is that, right? It looks like basically nothing. The base is your bottom layer. It may have different colors, different patterns, different shapes, but it is your bottom layer. Look at the different base character shapes that you can come up with. They can have, and in this case, it's flying arms or not, maybe an arm down. It can have both arms up, one down. So do you see how the base character shape can also be different? So here we've got 4, 8, 12. We have a number of base character shapes there. Then you want to define the rules. And the rules in a generative collection are the base layer shape and placement needs to be consistent with the attributes. So here's your base layer. Here are your attributes. You want them to fit perfectly on top so that they look perfect when it's completed, not bizarro like this. That's what you do not want to do. So you do have to be careful. How do you calculate the required traits and layers? And before we get into calculations, I'm going to go back to us and just say, are there questions? Because that was a lot as well. Understanding the different layers, understanding what a base character shape is.
Yeah, I have a question. So every layer has to be interchangeable, basically. You have to be able to, you have to be able to switch out everything because it's all the same, in the same place and the same size.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Every layer should be able to be used within your collection if you want it to be.
That's what I meant.
Yes. Every layer should be able to be used. If you have 12 different base characters, then you do want to use all 12 of those characters. And perhaps one of those 12 is rare. perhaps one of those base characters you use 1% of the time. Perhaps one of those base characters you only use 10% of the time. And this is how you create rarity. So you may have multiple base characters, and yet you are still able to create rarity with those base characters.
Okay.
Okay?
I got it.
Okay. How to calculate the required traits and layers. The first thing you want to decide is how many total pieces will be in your collection. That is a multiple of your layers and your traits. So the layers and the traits equal your collection size. If you have one base layer and then 10 layers for eyes, 10 layers for hats, 10 layers for shirts, 10 layers for your background, that will already equal a 10,000 NFT collection if you multiply them. So this is the way that you come up with how many are required. And for example, if you have one base, 10 eyes, 10 hats, 10 shirts, 10 backgrounds, you've already equaled 10,000, but you can break it down differently. For example, 5 base layers, 5 sets of eyes, 4 sets of hats, 5 mouth shapes, 5 glass styles, and 4 shirts will still equal a 10,000 collection. Or you can use different bases. Let's say you have 10 different shirts, 4 hairstyles, 5 facial expressions, 5 scarves, and 5 hats. Again, you are still equaling a 10,000 collection. It is up to you to decide how many different traits and how many different layers you will have. 5 bases, 5 eyes, 4 hats, 4 shirts, 5 mouths, 5 glasses equal 10,000. 2 bases, 10 shirts, 4 hairs, 5 facial expressions, 5 scarves, 5 hats still equals 10,000. And this is how you want to figure out how you're going to get to the total quantity your collection will be. This is the way that you determine that. Then you can even plan out your rarities. For example, you may have a base of bluebirds that are only 10%, or white birds that are only 10%. Red birds are only 5%, but green are 25 and yellow are 50. And this is how you start to set up the rarities in your collection, because this is information. These are the rules that you're going to enter into the software program so that it can randomly generate the entire collection. Now, if you did not want to have rarities, then it's just blue birds, white birds, red birds, green birds. There are no percentages. And it's the percentages that create the rarities. Next, set up your software. You decide which software program you're going to use. If you don't know Photoshop, you do not need to use Photoshop. You can use GIMP, you can use Procreate, you can use any one of the software programs that I previously mentioned. But I'm going to lay it out for you in Photoshop. The first thing you want to do is set up your canvas, set up your artboard size to the exact pixel dimensions your final NFT collection will be. If that's 600 by 600 square, that is what your main size will be. This is what you will be duplicating for every single layer. Next, you will create a layer called base. This will be your base. Draw the art for your first base on the base layer. Simple, right? Not complicated. Your base art might be a combination of more than one sublayer. Make sure that future layers are placed above your base layer, because if they are not placed above your base layer, they will always end up behind. You don't want glasses, or you don't want things behind your base layer, they won't show up. You want things in front of your base layer. It layers this way, out from your base, forward, forward, forward. So keep in mind how things layer and how it will look finished. Next, create a layer for one attribute, for example, eyes. Then draw one variation of this attribute. For example, just draw one set of eyes under the layer called eyes and call it, for example, blue eyes, brown eyes, green eyes, crossed eyes, looking up eyes, looking down eyes, whatever it is that you are creating. Maybe it's one brown, one blue eye, whatever it is that you are creating, be sure you label it that. This is part of the rules that you will be entering into the software, and you want to be consistent with what you are doing so that it generates what you want. Repeat the process. It's that simple. Just repeat it. So layer upon layer upon layer, you can have variations within an attribute. You can have variations of hair, variations of eyes, variations of accessories, variations of backgrounds. Those are within the attribute layer. So the main layer may say hair. The next layer underneath hair will be the hair color or the hairstyle or accessories on the hair. Okay, we have a question from Sal. Sal.
So
yes?
is there a minimum and a maximum of how many layers you can put into the program?
That's a great question. At the moment, there are really not a minimum. However, the maximum would be based on your collection. What I mean by that is if you're insane enough to create 10,000 individual layers, well, that's your collection. You've just created a collection.
I mean, how many layers do you have to put in to have that many different variations? Because wouldn't you have to have a lot of layers?
You going back to
or does the computer create its own different variations based on if you did 100 layers for 10,000 NFTs?
Going back to the slides,
Yeah.
I will show you. For example, if you have 5 bases times 5 eyes times 4 hats times 4 shirts times 4 mouths times 5 glasses, that doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But now you've created 10,000.
All the different variations multiplied in all the different ways.
Now you've created 10,000.
And you create 10,000.
And this is why you don't need that many.
Okay.
You may end up with...
The program does all the work.
The program does the work. You may end up with 300 different layers that create 3,000 total.
Okay.
Or 500 different layers that create 3,000 total.
Got it.
Creating each individual layer, repeating the process will look like this. This is what that looks like. This is your completed character. But if you look at the individual layers, and this again is Photoshop, and I'm showing you what it looks like in Photoshop, mouth shapes, eyebrows and eyes, hair and hats, base, nose, body wings, legs, BG for background. That's a short way of saying background, BG. And as you can see, BG is just orange. And there it is. Where is your base layer? Your base layer is here. Your legs are behind your base layer. Your background is behind your base layer because that's where you want them to be. This is why you need to be very thoughtful of where you put your base and what goes in front of your base and what goes behind your base. Then you want to create all of the variations. Create the first piece of the collection. Place all the traits on its own properly named layer. Duplicate that layer, that artboard, to match the largest amount of layers to create a trait. Make changes to the base layer and each attribute on every artboard. In other words, you do not need to start from scratch every single time. What you can do is create your basic base, and then if you're going to have 8 bases, Now you need to duplicate that fully completed base 8 times and then change out the individual attributes and traits. Makes it so much faster for you, the artist, to be able to do all of the steps much more quickly. Questions?
No. You're explaining it quite well.
Thank you.
Well,
Then you want to export each attributes layer separately. Each attributes layer will be exported separately, individually. This is how you keep everything separated. If you're not using something like Bueno Generator, which will do the work for you and you pay for it. And let me just for a moment say, one of the reasons why I like Bueno Generator as opposed to some of these other NFT generator companies, there is an NFT generator, and it might call NFT generator company, that will also generate all of the NFTs for you. However, they also will post the collection to OpenSea. They also will take the money for your collection and then pay you. This I would not recommend because A, how do you know they're going to pay you?
Yeah.
B,
too much control.
too much control.
Yeah.
You want control of your own collection. That I do not agree with. With Bueno Generator, you just flat out pay them. They create all of the files for you and then give it back to you and push you on your merry way. So you own everything. It is all yours. Whereas something like this NFT generator company doesn't sound to me
That's why I said you have to be careful.
above board. You have to be careful. So be very aware of what it is that you are paying for and buying, because it may not be what you think you're paying for and buying. If you do the whole thing yourself, then you want to use Hashlips. And there is a script which Hashlips will offer you to generate your collection. Very sophisticated coding, complex, not easy. However, Hashlips has created a wonderful video for you for free on YouTube so that you can see for yourself exactly how to do it. And you can literally have the video open on your computer next to you working on the script and do everything while he's telling you step by step exactly what to do. Can you do it yourself? Yes. Do you want to do it yourself? Maybe not. I don't know. You may want to. You may not want to. It's entirely up to you. Here is the option for you to do it yourself. When it's complete, boom. All you have to do now is upload it to the marketplace and start doing all the steps you need to do to get it ready for sale on the marketplace. I'm not covering those right now. So I am going to give you examples. Any questions on what I have just covered? Because again, very many steps, lots of different things you need to do if you're going to generate it yourself, if you're not going to generate it, if you're going to pay someone, if you're not going to pay someone. Lots of things to think about with generative art, but always lots of things to think about in any business.
Right.
Do your own research, be very thoughtful, be careful.
Details. It's all in the details.
It's all in the I'm going to keep going. Now I'm going to show you examples of different generative projects. First being CryptoPunks, the OG from 2017, CryptoPunks, 10,000 character collection. The pixel size is 336 pixels by 336 pixels. Looks like this generated. Lots of different characters. Accessories, earrings, 2,459 will have earrings.
Wow.
3 attributes. So in other words, they told the software this CryptoPunk is going to have 3 attributes. And they actually called it 3 attributes. Now the attributes are broken down, but that is one of the traits, is 3 attributes, which I thought was quite interesting. 2 attributes. Cigarette. That's an attribute. 4 attributes. So it shows you how this is broken down. And then males, 6,039. Females, 3,840. Zombies, 88. Apes, 24. And aliens. So what is rare? Aliens, then apes, then zombies, then females, then males. And this is how you create your rarities. Properties equal traits. If you're uploading to OpenSea, it will say properties. That is not traits to you. You're used to hearing traits now. Properties equal traits, same exact thing. So if you see properties, that's what traits are. Accessories. For example, here this CryptoPunk's accessories are 3 attributes: mohawk, nerd glasses, normal beard, black. Type, male, and that's it. Those are the properties. Do you see the word properties? That's what it will say on OpenSea, which I'm using as an example because it's the largest open market of all kinds of NFTs currently in the world. Bored Ape Yacht Club, their collection is 631 pixels by 631 pixels. And when I told you 600 by 600 pixels, it's an average size. You can do whatever you want, of course. This is what those characters look like generated. And you can go to OpenSea and you can look at Bored Ape Yacht Club collection. And for example, their properties, which are traits, include backgrounds, clothes, earrings, eyes, fur, hat, mouth. And then if you look to the right, you will see that there are 8 backgrounds. Those backgrounds are purple, yellow, orange, aquamarine, army green, blue, new punk blue, and gray. And then it breaks down how many have these backgrounds. Then if you do the same drop down for clothes, there are 43 different options for clothes, and you will find out what those are and how many have those. This is how you discover what are the properties, what are the traits of the collection that you're looking at. You go in and literally do the drop downs yourself. For example, this Bored Ape, under properties, background, new punk blue, clothes, prison jumpsuit, eyes, wide-eyed, fur, pink, hat, halo, mouth, grin. You can see all of these are the properties. Those are the traits of this particular NFT. Traits are what is the trait and then what is the name of that trait. And the name of the trait background is new punk blue. That is the name of that trait. Next, Cool Cats. This is not quite a 10K collection, $9,999, which I'm sure they did for 9 lives of cats, which is really fun. Look at how big these little tiny cats are. 1,080 by 1,080 pixels. If you've ever looked at videos are 1920 wide by 1080 high pixels. These are 1080 by 1080, these Cool Cats. Cool Cats look like this. This is what the Cool Cat collection looks like. And if you were to look at it on OpenSea, here is what the URL would look like, cool-cats-NFT. You name your collection on OpenSea. And there are many, many different options of the Cool Cats, and you can't even imagine how much these are selling for. Thousands and thousands of dollars, these little Cool Cat NFTs. Properties. What are the traits for Cool Cats? Body, there's only one body style. And if you go and you click down and you look at body, it's just a blue cat skin. Every single one theoretically is the same. However, if you look over at how many there are, why are there 9,933 instead of 9,999? Interesting, right? Interesting. If you look at face, there are 55 different faces. Ditto, mummy, beard pirate, zombie, 3 eyes. And then on the right, how many of each one of those are there? And then hats, shirt, tier. There are not a lot of traits, are there? But within those traits, There are tons of variations. In face alone, there are 55 variations of the face. And if I just go back and show you, look at the different faces on these cool cats.
You know, it's funny because I was going to ask you why there were like 63 non-blue cats. 66, whatever. What is
66 non-blue cats.
All right, but if you go back to the picture.
And if I go back to the picture.
Back to the picture.
Yes.
See the mummy at the bottom there? In the middle? No, right down there. Yep. Not a blue cat. So there are different little variations.
Interesting, right?
Every once in a while.
Good
That's what jumped out
eye.
at me all of a sudden. And
Good
I'm like,
eye,
there's
honey,
one.
because that is
Okay.
not blue.
There you go.
And there you go. And that is why you need to be very thoughtful about what is rare.
Mm-hmm.
What is rare? So a mummy is rare.
Jumped right out at
A
me.
mummy is rare.
Right.
And
that might be one that people pick because
of rarity.
Rarity.
Because of rarity. We have a question. Hello, Lourdes. Welcome. Thank you for being here. How exactly are the traits created, and how does it become a trait to list? Traits are created by the artist. If you are the artist, you create the traits when you decide what your own collection is going to look like. When someone like Bored Ape Yacht Club determined the traits, they took a piece of paper, they sat down, and they listed, these are the traits that we are going to have in our collection. And that is how you create traits. You, the artist, will create the traits. And what was your question after that? How does it become a trait to list? It becomes a trait when you draw it in a layer. Now it's a trait. If it's under hair, and under the layer hair, you have as an attribute for your trait. These are still traits. Brown hair, blonde hair, red hair, purple hair, rainbow colored hair, curly hair, straight hair. These are attributes, each one having its own layer. Every single layer is its own trait under a specific attribute. The attribute may be hair. The variation of that attribute is brown. The variation of that attribute is curly. The variation of that attribute is pigtails. I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that question, Lourdes. Good question. Cool Cat having a number of different traits. Traits, remember, are properties. If you're on OpenSea, what are the properties? You click the arrow to find out what the properties are, and then it tells you this trait is called body. The name of it is blue cat skin. This trait is called face. The name of it is sunglasses yellow. This trait is called hat. The name of it is antlers. And this is how you determine the properties. And these are the layers. These are the layers. Rarity is more money. Rarity is more valuable. Rarity equals scarcity. Scarcity equals higher price. Higher price equals more money in your pocket. You do want to have rarity. Rare NFTs have low traits or property percentages. And what I mean by that is this particular Bored Ape has the most rare properties. For example, clothes, hip hop, just 1% of the 10,000 NFTs have clothes that are hip hop, that are this. And that's why it's selling for 18,888 Ethereum, which translates into about $57 million. So if you have $57 million and you feel like buying this super rare Bored Ape, go for it. That's what makes it scarce. Okay, questions. If you have more questions about this, please put them in the comments below this video, and we will be so happy to answer them for you. Be sure you subscribe to our zazoome YouTube channel if you haven't already, so that you will be here for the next video about generative art that I am doing, which will be part 2, creating a collection. How do you create the collection? What goes into creating a collection? Remember, this is a basic beginner's guide, so I am giving you an overview. I'm not going into depth on any of these things, but I am giving you all of the basics that you will need to create your own collection. So what are the steps that go into creating a collection? I will be covering that next. Finally, if you like this video, please like it. You know I love those likes. And follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. Join the NFT Club, the zazoome NFT Club on Facebook, if you want to be involved more in what's happening with NFTs and crypto and the blockchain, because that's what we talk about. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. And
you should do this. Make NFTs.
NFTs.
Look what I did. I drew these really quickly. I want them to see them. Look, I made those NFTs right there.
Oh, I love that.
And look, there are the attributes. Hat, sunglasses, and tattoos. The degenerates, because Sheri was talking about generating NFTs, so I made the degenerates.
I love it. So don't make the degenerate Sal's making that, but do your own NFT collection. I hope this has inspired you and given you a good basic understanding of what a generative NFT art collection is all about. And if you do have questions about it, please leave them in the comments below this video. We are so happy to answer them. We love your comments. We love your feedback. And if there's something else that you want to see, let us know, because we would be happy to do that as well. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next video. Ciao, guys.
Toodles.